Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. I wanted to make a video that was requested by a viewer about how or tips to not get burned out in EVE, because this game is arguably a pretty hardcore game, or at least is seen as a hardcore game by many people, and because of its hardcore nature, how it can be taken very seriously compared to other games such as Fortnite. I know Fortnite can be taken very seriously as well as Minecraft, but what I mean is that generally speaking this is a pretty intense and time intensive game, and because of this it can lead to burnout. People just getting too exhausted of the game that they just can't be bothered to play at all. It just becomes a chore to just play this game, and I wanted to talk about how you can avoid burnout, how you can take the game a bit less seriously, because I think that's an important aspect of games in general. I feel like games never really should be taken too seriously. Now, when I say that I don't think that they should be taken too seriously, it doesn't mean I think you could not be invested in the game. I think it's very fun to be very invested in the game. But what I mean is, a way is to make it so that the game doesn't affect your affect your real life, so that you just if you lose your ship, you just a whole day has been completely ruined. So it just feels like your game is just completely sucking away at your entire life. I think that is something that is a pretty unhealthy lifestyle, but I don't think that you still can't have a very intense or very fun and invested experience in the game. That's something that I love about this game, is that you can invest a lot of stuff and invest a lot of time into this game and have a lot of big consequences following your investment of time into this game. That's something I love about EVE Online. So what would I say would be some tips? Well, one of the first ones I would say is one of the reasons I was sort of getting burned out in the beginning, and that is, it's easier said than done. It's much easier said than done, because I know that when I say this, it's not going to affect a lot of people, but it would be to stop focusing on ISK. And I make all these videos about how to earn ISK, how to get good ISK. It doesn't mean that I'm not focused on ISK. What I mean is, don't obsess over ISK. Maybe that was worded incorrectly. I mean, you can focus on ISK, but don't have to obsess over ISK. You can take losses as, you don't have to take it as if you've wasted all your time by having a loss. Obviously, yeah, you can waste time in a way by losing ISK, but you usually learn something from these experiences. Because in the beginning, when I started playing, I was obsessing so much over ISK, I want my bank to become bigger, I want my bank to become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it became such an obsessive thing that if I lose any small ship, whoa, no, I've lost ISK now. I went from 343 million ISK to 340 million, 40 million ISK. Oh no, I've lost. I need to this was a bit of an obsessive behavior I had in the beginning, and maybe not everyone feels this way, but I did, and I think that perhaps it can be a bit unhealthy to think of it too much like this. So what I mean is, don't see your entire progress in the game as a progress of ISK, because I think that if you see your only progress in the game being in the form of ISK, then it's very easy to feel like you've lost a lot of time, because if your only progress is ISK, then suddenly you lose ISK. You feel, I've wasted all these hours, then I basically have gone back to ground zero. I may as well gone back in time and I would have had more progress than I did now. I think this mindset can be very unhealthy and make it so that the game is not particularly fun and easily lead to burnout, because what happens is that when I lost a bunch of ISK, I feel like, I need to compensate this by doing this and this and this to get ISK back. And it didn't feel nice, and it was sort of an unhealthy relationship. So I'd say, don't focus on ISK. So then, or don't obsess over ISK. Then I'll say, what should you see as your progress? What should you sort of quote unquote obsess over to see as your progress? Well, what did it for me is to focus more on my skills, because my skills of my character, they can't really be taken away from me. They're going to be there all the time. I sort of see it like this. This is my progress. My progress is on my skills, because I know that I'm always becoming more and more skillful in my character. I can fly more ships over time. So this is something I saw as my main progress, but something that I also saw as a progress, which is perhaps a little bit harder to visualize or sort of put into a concrete or a image in your head, is the experience you learn from these losses you have. Because even if I say I lose, I don't know, 1 billion ISK to some mistake I do, it still is usually going to be something that I learned from. almost always something I learned from, because there was a reason that you lost that billion ISK. There's something you could perhaps do to avoid it, or maybe you couldn't avoid it. Maybe you should do the entire activity in a different way than you did before. Maybe do a different activity. You learned something new. And that's also something that I felt like, okay, I learned something new, because that helped me a lot get over this obsession I had for ISK, to get burnt out by having so much ISK, that instead I just focused on, okay, I have my skills, and it's not the whole world. I just start again, and I just avoid what I did before, and I learned something new from that. And I see my knowledge that was gained earned in the game as a form of progress. So I still earned some progress, not in ISK, but in knowledge. So I see that as a form of progress. And I know it's hard to say that, oh, yeah, see your knowledge as progress, but I know it's not as satisfying as seeing perhaps your ISK balance go up. But I think that if in the grand scheme of things, you'll realize this. At least this was not something I really realized in the beginning. It took a long time, like over a year of me playing, to realize that knowledge in the game actually can be seen as a form of progress as well. And I think it's a very valuable form of progress as well, probably even more valuable than ISK, because any random person can just, buy a bunch of Plex and get a bunch of ISK, but they can't just buy a bunch of knowledge as easily as they can with Plex. So that's the way I stopped obsessing over ISK. A lot easier said than done, but try getting that out of your system. It'll help a lot with reducing burnout. Another way to reduce burnout, or another source of burnout I see, is the stress from corporation leaderships, especially arrogant, power-hungry corporation leaderships. People who are so full of themselves think that they're suddenly superior to other people because they suddenly have exceeded in some kind of video game. I completely think this is the stupidest and most pathetic way to think that you're superior to someone else. I don't have anything against having a bit of, role play where, oh, you're the senior commander, oh, we're going to respect the senior commander. But people actually sometimes think that they're like superior to other people because they're superior to someone in rank or can tell people what to do in a corporation. I really hate this attitude, and that is a big reason why I'm in the corporation I am in right now. I'm in the corporation called Brave Empire, and this is a part of the Brave United, and these guys are really chill. So this is now probably coming across as like an ad to my corporation, and I guess it is in some way, but it's not at all this kind of setting there where people sort of see down to other people, and people are sort of stressed out from other leadership to having to perform 100% all the time. Because I feel like many corporations, at least people I've been with before, can sort of stress you to have to perform 100% all the time. And at the end of the day, I just want to have fun. Not everyone likes things this way. Some people want to be really, really efficient, and I can see that. I can respect that to some degree. But I feel like if you're having troubles just feeling this stress from your corporation, change corporation. There's a million other corporations you can join. You're not bound to one corporation. It says in your history that you've been in a different corporation. Who cares that I've been in 50 different corporations? No, maybe not 50, maybe 20 or something like that. But it's not the whole world if you switch corporation. And if people are going to go after you, just block them. If they're thinking, why did you leave, just block them. I know it's a silly thing to say, maybe to just block them, but it's just a video game. You don't have to obsess too much about what other people think of you. Find a group of players. If you want to play the style of being in a corporation, find a group of players who you enjoy being with, who are a bit more chill and maybe don't give you as much stress as they would compared to other corporations. I feel like that helped a lot as well. Made it a bit more laid back, because that's something I love about the corporation I am in right there. I'm sure there are many other corporations. It's just about just trying different corporations and finding corporations which you feel very comfortable in. And one of the very laid back ones, as I said before, is my one, Brave Empire. That's the particular reason why I am in it, because you can die and no one's really going to be like, oh, what the heck did you do? And you can also be in high sec and null sec and not being able to be war declared as well, because this corporation doesn't own any structures, so it's pretty chill in high sec as well. So that is something that I would do. Choose the right corporation for you to avoid burnout, because certain corporations can have a bit of a culture that is very, very hardcore, that sort of enables burnout a bit more than others. So choosing the right corporation is a good way to avoid burnout, in my opinion. Another tip I would say to avoid burnout is choose also not only choosing the right corporation, but also choose activities that are not too hardcore if you're having too big of a time with burnout. For example, my character, my main character, this is not my main character I'm on right now, but my main character is able to do T6 Abyss, and that is pretty hardcore. I'm able to do it in a pretty chill fashion, so I can do it a lot. But it comes from time to time that I'm having to avoid gankers. I'm having to sort of bend between system to system to avoid gankers. It can be a bit of a stressful experience, and you're having to then at the same time carry a really expensive ship. It cannot be the most relaxing type of activity. Sometimes I'll do T4, it'll earn less ISK, but you have to also think about this. The chill aspect of your gameplay, how much fun you're having, or how much, like, you can say, stress-free experience you're having, I think, in my opinion, also plays into account, because instead of using, say, a 6 billion ISK ship, I can use a 500 million ship and do T4s. I'd earn, maybe 1/5 of the ISK I would do for T6, but I'll still earn a decent amount of ISK, and I can play in a very chill fashion, be close to Jita perhaps, and then, be able to just go around, do other activities without having to move into a very secure system to be able to do T6s. I think choosing an activity that has got the hardcore level that applies to you as a person can also help. If you're having too much stress, then don't do that activity, do something else. Another example is when I would do a lot of exploration. It can also be pretty stressful because a lot of people are there after you. They're after you and trying to kill you all the time. And it can lead to, a bit of burnout as well. If you're obsessing over getting a lot of ISK, suddenly you just go and get destroyed by explorers, hunters, then it's not going to be a nice experience. And I mean, it can also be a very intense experience, very exciting as well. But it can, for some people, if you've been doing exploring for a long enough period of time, it can perhaps lead to some burnout as well. So try choosing an activity that suits you for your burnout thresholds, or for your stress thresholds. You also want to have an enjoying experience in the game. That's the whole reason, to be honest, you should play to begin with. So the first one was then start obsessing over ISK. Second one, choosing the right corporation, and third, choosing the right activities. And then another fourth tip, which I would say is probably the last one, is that you should I would advise to not focus on plexing your account with in-game ISK straight away. You can definitely do that. I would recommend doing that if you want to, because it feels very satisfying to do that, and it's also cool to I think it's just a cool feeling to be able to earn so much ISK in-game that you're able to plex your account. But it is extremely difficult to do this in the beginning because your character is not skilled enough and you've not accumulated enough ISK to be able to do the activities that earn good ISK, to be able to, in a decent time frame, earn your monthly Plex subscription. What this is going to result in is you, as a noob character with low skills and low ISK, are going to do low ISK per hour activities, or maybe more riskier activities such as exploration. The result of that is you're going to do that for so many hours to get Plex, and you just dump so much time into that to get Plex. At that point, I would say either you go with an alpha clone. That's what I did. I was an alpha clone for 1 year before I started going Omega. Or you can buy your subscription straight away and just start training skills. I would strongly not recommend to grind that ISK straight away. So that's what I would say. I went for an alpha clone about a year, bought like half a year was worth of Plex. Then I started being able to gradually over time in a few months here and there, and then I was able to do it permanently. So that's what I would say as a new player who wants to avoid burnout. Don't at all, just forget about earning that Plex to begin with. What you should be focusing on is learning the game, because an alpha clone is able to do so much. So it's not like you're going to be limited by not being able to be an omega clone. You're going to be able to do plenty enough as an alpha clone. So just focus on being as good as an alpha clone as possible in the beginning, in my opinion. I think that's a good strategy. And then after that, you can add on to that with being an omega clone. Those are some tips on how to avoid burnouts in EVE Online, this very hardcore game. First one, not obsessing over ISK. Second one, choosing a right corporation that has a culture that fits you. Third, to choose the activities that are not too stressful. And then fourth, don't obsess over earning that Plex for monthly subscriptions straight away. Or at least focus on doing that when you're actually able to do that within reason. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something new. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.